I can hear you.
Okay. And so I'm so sick and tired and have been for a really long time of his story being told and his story being the truth and his story being what is regarded as fact. And I'm ready for our story to be told and for our story to be the truth and for our story to be the baseline for everything that we know to be history. And so, one of the smartest men I know without a PhD, because he done educated himself and reads. I don't know how fast you read, because you be reading. You're like, today I'm reading this 600-page book, and then the next day, 2 days later, your ass be like, I'm reading this 1,600-page book. I'm like, how do you read that fast? So, without any further ado, thank you so much for your time. I think we had you like 2 months ago.
Yeah, something. Yeah, like 2 months ago.
Something like that. So talk to us
Yeah.
a little, like, first and foremost, how do you self-educate? Like, how can we ourselves learn how to self-educate when you got kids, you got work, you got extracurricular activities? Like, how do you actually find the time to sit back and read these 600 pages and then absorb everything you learned when everything you was taught goes
Right.
against everything you're learning?
Well, it's definitely a process. I would say that it's a process because, like you just said, you gotta try to find time in your busy day schedules, your night schedules, your kids, and all those type of things that go on in your daily life. What I was taught to do is like my process has been over the last 10 years is that kind of like write down like the topics that you want to be really educated on or you want to teach yourself about or what you want to learn about. And I would just write those categories down, those different areas of education down on a piece of paper. And then I would just start the process of, okay, how long or how much time do I have to try to get some of this information absorbed in my mind and like with the process of reading. So my best advice to people who just starting off is to like try to do at least 15 minutes to like 30 minutes of reading because a lot of people think you gotta try to read the whole book in one day or things of that nature. No, you don't have to do that. You can just take like at least 15 minutes. I would say at least 15 minutes for beginners. It's like take whatever books you buy or on the topics that you're trying to educate yourself on, set those to the side and just throughout the week, like sometime during the week, have that personal reading time to yourself, 15 to at least 30 minutes. And what I do, like as far as the process, even with the bigger books, like the bigger books that I get and things of that nature, I try to read at least one book every day, different books every day throughout the week in that 15-minute to 30-minute process and try to at least get a chapter. Don't try to overdo it. At least try to get a chapter in. And you will be surprised, like throughout the process of a month, how much you get done or how much reading you get done throughout that month. If you just do it like chapter to chapter or, try to stretch it as much time as you can get in, like as far as personal time.
And so really it's about choices and what are you choosing to spend your time on? You could be scrolling through the gram for 6 hours, or you could actually be reading a book and absorbing some of the truth. So as far as going back to my first question, when you have a baseline or a foundation of white supremacy, aka what we know to be history, how do you then read? And I ask this question because it's difficult for me sometimes to accept what I read and take it as truth. Like, how does this fit into the narrative that I'm already accustomed of or have known and learned to be the truth?
Right. The first thing I would say is that, you got to understand that the educational system is colonized. So like you just said, it's coming from their histories, their narratives, their perspectives, and what they want you to know. Because the truth is, like I tell a lot of people that I be trying to, educate is like, even in the colonizers' education, you still can get the truth out of their education. That's why you have to like self-develop yourself and learn how to study their history so you can get our story out of their history. Because the one thing I find out in doing my research is that, and self-educating myself, is that once you go down one rabbit hole, you're gonna find information and things of that nature that you've never seen before in your life. And that's what really got me like dedicated to it and loyal to like self-educating myself and wanting to learn about this colonized education system we've been taught over all these generations. Is that, like there's truth to our story inside their story. So that's the first thing you gotta get in your mind. Like, okay, this history has been colonized. It has been taught one way, and it only wants me to see the world in their view. And that's what we mean by their worldview. It's like a Eurocentric worldview. So we want to try to find the Afrocentric worldview inside that, or the indigenous centric worldview inside of that, because we got to understand that our story begins with indigenous history. So at the end of the day, because we are indigenous people, no matter where we are on this planet. Colored. Some people like to use colored people or things of that nature, but we say melanated people. Our story is indigenous history. So when we're going through his history, the first thing you gotta get put in your mind is that we know that this is not the truth. This is not the full truth. Like some truth, some way how they teach their history, there's some truth of our story in it. But we have to get that mindset when we're trying to like critically analyze it and break it down to get our story pulled out of it, that we got to know from the get-go that this is half truth. We're trying to find the full truth, which is our story, so we can liberate ourselves mentally, if that makes sense.
Of course it does, but I do understand that there's a whole host of people out here that cannot fathom what the truth is. And I mean those that have been drowned in the colonization of what history is.
Right.
Can you, for us, break down? So I know you do a lot of work with our freedom fighters and those that have been in prison. Can you kind of break down for us the work that you're currently doing and how we can help you help those that are still behind bars for political reasons?
Right. Yeah. That's like my main focus and main work at the moment is with political prisoners of war. We deem as political prisoners because of their political beliefs, their political situation, their political struggle, and things of that nature, which has them captured behind bars. So what I'm doing right now with others inside the movement, the New African Independence Movement, and other organizations who have been struggling for political prisoners over the last, I would say, 30 to 40 to 50 years, is that we're just trying to bring awareness. See, the key thing to it is that it's about awareness. It's about getting generation to generation to know their names. So, like a lot of people always ask me, what can they do to help, political prisoners, things of that nature. Well, the most important step of them all is just to bring awareness to their names. And that's like just writing down a list of the names of political prisoners, which you can find on my website, newafrican77.wordpress.com, or you can go to thejerichomovement.com. And on both of those websites, we have lists of these political prisoners' names that you can get in contact with. You can write them. You can support them, financially. You can help them with their attorney fees. Anything on your free will that you want to dedicate to helping these elders out, you can do that. Because once you go to these websites and you find these political prisoners' names, it will link you to their personal websites. And so then you can go on their personal websites and learn who these individuals are. At the moment, we're in a crisis stage when it comes to political prisoners at this moment, because all these political prisoners like Dr. Matulu Shakur, Russell Maroon Schultz, Mumia Abu Jamal, Sandiata Okolai, these political prisoners are elderly. They're averaging from ages of 70 to 84. And right now, we're going through this the pandemic with COVID-19, coronavirus, and all these things of nature. These individuals don't have the access to the proper medical aid at this moment because they're up there in age, and many of them are suffering from COVID-19, cancer, dementia, all types of illnesses from being in prison. And these political prisoners have been going through some of the most dehumanizing conditions, like solitary confinement in many cases. These brothers are locked up from like 23 to 24 hours out the day in isolation where they can't get no sunlight, things of that nature. And it's deteriorating their health. And those individuals I just named to you, those are the individuals who are really at the highest sickness at the moment, and we're trying to get them out because they're going to die in there. We just recently had an elder of the Black Panther Party who died in prison, which goes by the name Chip Fitzgerald, who just died from a heart attack and a stroke and COVID-19 and things of that nature. So we're like in 911 emergency mode at the moment. So anything you can do is just to bring awareness to their name. Please do so. Repost their pictures, repost their addresses, repost their condition and what they're going through on your social media sites. And people don't know how far that goes, because if you can bring attention to their names, it will bring attention to their case, and we can help get them out and get them the proper medical aid.
Can you please, again for me, say their name, spell their name, who they are in our past, right. and I'm going to go ahead and find the websites and find the information so people can then connect to them, whether it's writing them a letter, sending them some coins, or whatever it may be. Yes. So their name, the spelling of their name, and who they are that represent our past.
Okay. I'll give you the top 5 political prisoners who are indicted right now. I just run their names down. The first is Dr. Mutulu Shakur, which is MUTULUSHAKUR. And Dr. Mutulu Shakur is a citizen of the Republic of New Africa. He was affiliated with the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, and Revolutionary Action Movement, and other. He's a co-founder of the Malcolm X grassroots movement as well. That is a current organization that many people may know of. And Dr. Mutulu Shakur is like the first Black doctor of acupuncture in North America. Many people do not know this. Like, he was the individual who founded the first self-reliant acupuncture clinic and acupuncture programs that in the Bronx and Harlem. Like, he's a real doctor. Like, a lot of people don't know this about Mutulu. He's a real doctor. Like, he's the one that introduced like Eastern traditional medicine to our people in over a numerous time period. Dr. Mutulu Shakur helped cure over 1,000 heroin addicts in New York City back in the 1960s, 1970s. So this was one of the reasons why the government attacked them, because if you go against big pharma or the big pharmaceutical industry, they don't want Black people, New African people, Puerto Rican people, Latino, Browns, Mexicans, Chicanos. They don't want you being able to access this medical health care on your own. So that is one of the reasons why they attacked Dr. Mutulu Shakur. And many people know Dr. Mutulu because he's the father/stepfather of the artist Tupac Shakur. So Dr. Mutulu Shakur.
Hold on. You got to say that again, because I don't think they heard you the first time.
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Mutulu Shakur is the father/stepfather of the artist you all know as Tupac Shakur. A lot of people don't know that, but yes, he's the one. He's one of the main reasons why Tupac Shakur was who he was and who he became, because this was his mentor, his father, his stepfather, and all those things above. So yeah, this is who Mutulu is. Number 2 is Mumia Abu Jamal, which is somebody that y'all probably been seeing in the news lately because this case has got so much focus on him. Mumia Abu Jamal is MUMIAABUJAMAL. And Mumia is a member of the MOVE organization / Black Panther Party of Philadelphia. He was one of the first members of the Black Panther Party in Philadelphia. And Mumia right now is suffering with all types of illnesses and conditions right now to the point is like they're like Pennsylvania prison system has been trying to kill Mumia ever since they had Mumia incarcerated. Mumia had got life because he was framed. Well, he had got death. He was put on death row. Because they framed him because at this point in time, you got to understand and study COINTELPRO. That's something you need to write down as well in order to understand these cases. Is COINTEL, which was the counterintelligence program with AIM, the FBI counterintelligence that was ran by J. Edgar Hoover, who set up this unit to attack black activists, black organizations, black leaders, and destroy them and neutralize them and character assassinate them and things of this nature. Well, Mumia was framed in Philadelphia because they knew he was a Black Panther, and they framed him for police murder. So he got incarcerated. They had him on death row. The people fought, we fought, everybody fought. We got him off death row. They changed this sentence to life. But now, this is something people got to understand. People like Mumia, who's in prison, and because of their age and because of the pandemic, the COVID-19, if you contract COVID-19 and things of that nature, and you're sick, you can be released from prison because prison doesn't have the proper medical, you know what I'm saying, facilities inside the prison that can, treat COVID patients or treat people with illnesses that cannot be treated in prison. This is based under civil rights and human rights. So, and this is something a lot of people don't even understand is that we can demand the release of them based on that alone under a pandemic, under COVID-19. So Mumia fits that, and Mutulu as well, and all these political, they fit that profile of they can be released under the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is another reason why we're in urgency to try to hurry up and get their names out there and get their cases out there to get them out, because they can be released under COVID-19. Because one of our elders from the Black Liberation Black Panther Party, Jalil Muta King, just came home based on that COVID-19 and catching COVID-19, things of that nature. So Mumia is sick. He's very sick. He got like a skin disease, his sight, things of that nature. So we're really in mode to try to get him out as well. 3, Sundiata Okola. Now, this is a political prisoner. Many people don't even know who he is. A lot of people do, a lot of people don't. But Sundiata Okola was a member of the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, and the Republic of New Africa. Many people would know his case based off of this next sister name I'm about to mention, Assata Shakur. If you're familiar with the case of Assata Shakur, you will learn about Sundiata Okola's case through Assata Shakur's case, because Sundiata Okola is the co-defendant of Assata Shakur. When Assata Shakur was framed for shooting police officers off the New Jersey Turnpike, Sundiata Okola was with her. Zai Shakur was with her. They were the 3 individuals that were pulled over on the famous New Jersey Turnpike case. And a police officer ended up getting shot in which what we call friendly fire. So he was actually shot by his own partners in a friendly fire, trying to kill Assata, trying to kill Sundiata, and trying to kill Zai. Zai Shakur was assassinated on the scene. He caught a bullet. Assata was shot. Sundiata Okola was beaten, but eventually Assata and Sundiata Okola escaped from that scene. They escaped. But they were eventually captured. Assata was eventually liberated from prison. Many people know her famous case. She was freed from prison. She's now living in Cuba under political asylum. But Sundiata has been incarcerated for over 40 to 50 years. And he's suffering from COVID-19. He's suffering from dementia. This man is 84 years old. Think about that. This is how long this man has been incarcerated, longer than some people have been alive today. That from the younger generations and people that may be in their 20s or 30s. This man has been locked up ever since then, and he's 84. Prison is no place for an 84-year-old elder, especially when you're contracting, COVID-19 and sickness of this nature. And this is the thing with Sundiata Okola case that people have to know. He was granted parole back in like 2015. But under complaints from the police departments of New Jersey, and the so-called victims of these police officers, they took his parole back. He was granted parole and was about to be released. They took his parole back. So this elder has been getting denied parole for over the last 20 years, over and over. Every time he goes up for parole, they deny it. Back and forth, until he was almost granted parole back in like 2015. So that's why we're saying his case is unjust. Because you granted this man parole, then you took it back. So that should tell you right then and there that this man has been a great citizen behind prison bars. He hasn't committed no crimes behind bars. Release him. Let him come home. He's sick. He can't get the proper medical attention in there. So I'm going to go ahead and throw one more in there. I'm going to throw one more political prisoner in there because I want to take up too much time. One more political prisoner that y'all can write down is, many of y'all know him by H. Rock Brown. He now goes by the name Imam Jamil Al-Amin. You spell that by Jamil-Alamin. H. Rock Brown, Jamil Al-Amin, is incarcerated in Arizona. And he's been incarcerated in Arizona for the last 30 years. He's in an underground prison. H. Rock Brown has no sight at all. He can't see. Yeah, he's suffering from a bad cataract, and he cannot see, period. They took this man from Georgia and purposely shipped him to Arizona away from his family and friends. So he has no contact with nobody outside of his son at this moment. So we're trying to fight to get him brought back to Georgia so he can fight his case from Georgia, because his case was in Georgia. So why is he in Arizona in the first place? So that's showing you like the terroristic, dehumanizing tactics that they're doing to try to break these elders just because of the organizations they were a part of, just because of the work that they did in the communities, that they're isolating these people from their families, their friends, and not even giving them a chance to fight their case, because he was also framed for shooting a police officer. And at this current moment, a witness has came to the forefront and stated that he was the person that shot the police officer. So why is H. Rock Brown still in prison when y'all have the individual who shot this police officer? So he shouldn't even be in prison, because y'all have the person who actually did it. So what we're doing with H. Rock Brown case, we're just trying to get him back to Georgia so he can appear in his case. So that's just a few of the individuals that we're trying to bring, cases that we're trying to bring attention to.
Well, I want to take a quick break. That was a lot to ingest, and I have a lot of questions. And I can imagine that some of the listeners have questions as well. But let's get in. We're going to go ahead and pay these bills real quick. And when we come back, we're going to dig a little deeper into political prisoners and what it means to how the life of political prisoners have altered what it means for us in our freedom today. So I am Tayla Andre. This is a deep and heavy conversation, but I love every moment of it.
You are enjoying the miracle of radio.
New England's #1 urban Caribbean music. Radio. Spark FM.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Are you tired of renting and need more of your own space? Are you getting stressful letters or calls from the bank? Does your home require expensive repairs and you just don't have the funds to fix them? Regardless of whether you want to buy or sell, Tayla Andre of Thumbprint Realty is here to help. From saving your home from foreclosure to walking you through the process of becoming a first-time homeowner, Tayla makes real estate easy. With your best interests at heart, knowledge of the market, and a passion for people, Tayla is dedicated and motivated to serve you.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre, and I am determined and dedicated in assisting you in all of your real estate needs. Give me a call at 617-459-0041. Again, that number is 617-459-0041. Or you can email me at TAYLAANDRE@thumbprintrealty.com. yes. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. We are on the phone with Haki Shakur, and we are talking about, prior to the commercial break, we were discussing political prisoners and the political prisoners that Mr. Shakur is fighting on behalf of, and why this conversation is so important. And so one of the things that I'd like to discuss now is, how has our political prisoners, what they have done, put us in the position that we are currently in today?
That's a great question. That's let me just start off by saying it like this: is that people got to understand what happened. You got to get a context, the proper context of what happened to these elders and what was going on in that time period. So individuals who are trying to learn about that and want to know how this affects us today, affects our communities, affects everything that's going on right now, you have to go back to, I would say, like the late 1950s to the early 60s to the mid 60s, all the way up until like the 1980s, when the Black Panther Party, these organizations of the Black Liberation Movement were ultimately took down. So first you have to get the context of what was going on. So you're going to have to go back, study what happened to the Black Panther Party, learn about the Black Liberation Movements of that time period, learn about these activists, and learn what the government, like I said earlier, COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence programs, J. Edgar Hoover, all these things coincide. And one good thing to get a start on that you probably can do right now is watch the movie The Judas and the Black Messiah. Because if you watch the movie The Judas and Black Messiah, then you would get a great educational look at what happened to Fred Hampton, the Chicago Black Panther Party, and individuals like Fred Hampton and them, and what the government was doing to these individuals and why they were doing it to them. That's a great kind of like first step. You can watch Judas and the Black Messiah, but personally, do your personal research and go back and study what happened to the Black Panther Party, what happened to the Republican of Africa, what happened to these organizations and things of that nature, and find out these individuals, these political prisoners that are still being held behind bars today, so you can understand. Now, how that affects us today? It affects us today because you got to understand, this was the first time in history, in our struggle to a certain degree, is that these were individuals who were actually leaders. I know that might go over people's head, but these were individuals who were actually leaders, who were actually fighting for us, who were actually trying to show us the truth, show us the way, change the system, change the education system, change the conditions in our communities, educate us mentally, educating us spiritually. These individuals were specializing in areas to try to revolutionize our community, to uplift us, to teach us to do for ourselves, and to get us out of these conditions, and to change the system, period. Because we got to understand, this system is not good for New African, Black people, brown people, Chicanos, Latinos. This system has not been good for us. So these individuals were fighting to overchange that, to change the system. So by destroying these leaders, whether it was through assassinating them, assassinating their characters, getting them behind bars, breaking them in prison, you're taking individuals out of a community that were good for us, that were healthy for us, that were showing us the way, that were, fighting against drug abuse, fighting against gender abuse, fighting against sexism, fighting against racism, fighting against institutionalized racism, incarceration, and things of these nature. We're fighting against medical, poor medical health community. And they set up programs. This is something I got over. They set up programs of self, to do for self. They had programs like the free breakfast program. They had programs like, to fight, like sickle cell and all these type of things. They had programs, free food, free groceries, things of this nature that you see today that the government took from them, stole from them, which is, the welfare programs and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? So all this stuff, y'all took our leaders, you killed our leaders, you incarcerated our leaders, but you took what they created. They created these programs that y'all use today to assist the citizens of the United States of America. But you took these individuals and said they were criminals doing it. You see what I'm saying? So when you take these type of individuals out your community now becomes lost. It now gets caught up in chaos. It now falls deeper into the control of our historical oppressors who are not trying to help us, who are not trying to give us the proper education, who are not trying to give us the proper economics that we need to get us out of, to help us as people get pulled out of these horrendous conditions. These individuals were doing that. So when you remove that element from your community now becomes a jungle. It becomes a war zone. It becomes steeped in violence, poverty. You know what I'm saying? Because we had individuals that were pulling us out of that. You see what I'm saying? With the work, with the programs. So now you see why we're in the state that we are today. You see what I'm saying? As far as, our youth, even some of our adults who are still lost. It's because look who they took out of our community. They took our role models out. They took our mentors out. You see what I'm saying? So now we're still fighting to recover from that. So that's why we're in the condition in the state that we are.
So I want to give a little baseline information for those that are unfamiliar. What is COINTELPRO? Like, what exactly? I hear you talking about it. I see what Taylor's putting on the screen, but this seemed like a little conspiracy theorist. Like, y'all seem off. Y'all crazy. This didn't really happen.
Right. Yeah, it actually happened. And that's the thing about it. When people start to learn about COINTELPRO, which stands for the Counterintelligence Program, and what the Counterintelligence Program was a unit that was set up by the FBI. At this period of time, the FBI was led by this individual by the name of J. Edgar Hoover. That's a name you must know. You must write that name down and educate yourself about J. Edgar Hoover. Because once you learn about J. Edgar Hoover, all that conspiracy theories and things of that nature go out the window, because these are based on facts. Now, this is something else I would tell people to do. The Counterintelligence Program was a unit set up to neutralize Black organizations, Black political organizations, to neutralize Black leaders, because they didn't want no Black leaders to be the forefront of trying to, liberate our communities or seek freedom for our communities or seek equality for our communities, to, be the models of the leaders to pull us up out of our conditions. Because you got to understand, this government wants Black people, brown people to stay in the conditions that they are in, which is mental slavery, physical slavery, impoverishment, violence, chaos. So when you have leaders like Fred Hampton, Tayla Shakur, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, Assata Shakur, even the Sisters of the Movement, Angela Davis, people like that. When you have people like that that's in your community that's trying to teach you and show you the way, the truth and things of that nature, J. Edgar Hoover labeled them as a threat, saying that they were a threat to the United States security and the United States government, which is ludicrous. That's insane. How can they be threats when the only thing they're doing is trying to help their people? How can you be a criminal or a terrorist or anything of that nature when the only thing you're doing is trying to help your people out of poverty, out of violence that this government created? Because you got to understand, the government creates our conditions. However the government acts is how these classes they set up in the society is going to act, or how they're going to live materially or physically. You see what I'm saying? So J. Edgar Hoover set up this program because he seen the great work the Black Panther Party was doing, the great work that the Republic of New Africa was doing. Like I said, the programs, this is the thing y'all gotta understand, the programs these individuals created to help us in a self-determining way is what was the threat that J. Edgar Hoover and the government didn't like, because we were doing for ourselves. We didn't need the government to a certain degree because we had these programs and things of that nature, learning to do these things on ourselves. So, J. Edgar Hoover is like, nah, we can't let the Black Panther Party run around the United States of America and freeing Black people and freeing oppressed people. No, we got to end them. We got to destroy them. So they set up the Counterintelligence Program, which was an intelligence program that was used through informants, agents of the FBI to infiltrate these organizations, to frame, set up, like I said before, character assassinate these people. Like Martin Luther King, for instance, he was a victim of COINTELPRO. To set up assassinations, set up attacks, set up things to make, anything to try to make the individual look bad to white people or anybody who disagreed with what black people or these black organizations were trying to do for black people and brown people and things of that nature. You had other organizations also was victim of COINTELPRO. You had the Puerto Rican movement, the Young Lords Party were set up. The Indian movement, the AIM, the American Indian movement, a political prisoner by the name of Leonard Peltier, who's a Native Indigenous freedom fighter, was set up by COINTELPRO. So you had this counterintelligence unit that would send agents into these organizations and did criminal acts, criminal things, plant drugs, plant weapons, plant anything to get these individuals off the street. Is basically what the counterintelligence program consisted of. It actually was a criminal organization. And you can go online and you can find the COINTEL papers. If you want to research it deeply, you can pull up the counterintelligence papers and learn and see what they did to these great black leaders like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and all these great individuals that they had assassinated.
So let's say we ready to go down that rabbit hole, right? And so I go ahead and I watch Judas and the Black Messiah. And after watching it, I'm completely infuriated. What can I actually do now?
Basically the same thing that I told you about political prisoners. Bring awareness to counterintelligence program. Organize groups or organize like study groups, organize like online groups, do online Zoom, and make this topic about counterintelligence program because they have to be exposed. You see what I'm saying? They have to be known about because if we can get the people, all the classes of people in America to understand what the counterintelligence program did, then you will see that what they were doing were actually criminal acts. They were violating people's civil rights. They were violating people's human rights. So, and what makes that important, right, is that what about our future generation activists, the younger generation, of kids and teenagers, college students, and who wanna fight for justice, who wanna fight against oppression, who wanna fight for our people, who wanna fight for their communities. All these young activists on these college campuses and things of that nature. What if they don't learn about counterintelligence program, they're going to be victims of the counterintelligence program because we got to understand that the counterintelligence program is not even, it's not destroyed, it's not over. It's going by different names now, but we don't really know the names of some of these, counterintelligence programs today because now they're moving in so much of secrecy, and that they're still out here trying to frame and neutralize certain activists who are rising up to the forefront in these new organizations, these new fresh youth, this new fresh leadership. So you have to study, the COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program, because if you don't study it or if you don't learn about it and if you don't make it be known or bring awareness to it, then we're going to have future generations that's coming behind us that's going to fall victim to it and just going to be targeted, framed, set up, assassinated. So I would just say awareness. The key thing that any individual can do is always bring awareness. This is what something Matuda taught me. The key to it all is to bring awareness. You have to put a spotlight on it. That's the most important thing of it all, because once you put a spotlight on it, then you can organize around that and more things that you can do for exposing it and trying to get rid of it and trying to destroy it and hold those individuals accountable for it, because we're still trying to hold the counterintelligence program accountable for what they did to our elders and what they're continuing to do today to certain activists. So it's all about bringing awareness to it and holding them accountable, because you can hold the government accountable for criminal acts. This is something people don't know. Like if they're doing it, the government is committing criminal acts every day on citizens. So it's like, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue to let this happen and let our future generations fall victim to it and be killed, locked up for and getting tremendous time just because their beliefs, their political beliefs and what they believe, you see what I'm saying? No, that's wrong. That's criminal. So we just got to put awareness on it. I would tell every individual, just try to bring awareness to that name, counterintelligence program.
Okay. And so I have a small group. The 5 of us sit around and talk about the history. We, share on our Facebooks and on our social media. But what changes can we as a people actually make when the system itself is the system? Like I see you working and I see you're dedicated, and it definitely is a lifelong journey, fighting for political prisoners and just fighting for the history period to be known. The placards around the country plaques around the country that give historic views of what this place was, what happened at this site. When you're driving on the road, ain't nobody stopping and taking pictures but you. And so when you have you and your friends having real conversations about what's going on in society, but you don't really feel like you can make a change in it because it's the entire system as a whole, you don't get frustrated, you don't get tired, you don't feel like stopping, quitting, giving up when you know that you yourself by yourself is not making a huge difference, and our political prisoners are still going to be in jail?
Right. Trust me, you will go through periods of time of like feeling like, man, I'm ready to give up. Like it's like a mental thing to it too, which is the most important aspect of the struggle, the mental aspect of mental health. And sometimes you do feel like saying give up. But then in return, I'm to the point where I'm at in the struggle, learning from my elders. Another good thing is to get around elders. Get around elders who actually lived in that time period and who actually went through that struggle and who are still actually at the age they are right now, that's outside the prison walls, that are actually still fighting and still struggling. See, I get my inspiration and motivation off my elders. Like, to see them at the age they are and they're still fighting and they still struggling, who am I to give up? You feel me? Who am I to throw the towel in? And it goes back to something that individual that we all know have said. And many people don't know where he got it from, but like the great brother Nipsey Hussle said, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. Like a lot of people hop into this struggle, or they hop into the lifestyle of a political activist or a freedom fighter, or just a person who wants change, who just want to change the system. They not necessarily want to be the freedom fighter or the revolutionary thing. Somebody who just want to change the system and make it more equitable and things of that nature. You got to understand, like Nipsey said, this is a marathon. And what Nipsey was saying is that, and he got this from the elders as well, because he knew many of my elders and things of that nature as well, from the Black Panther Party and thing like that, is that the marathon is the protracted struggle. And what we mean by the protracted struggle in a revolutionary terminology is that this is from the generation to the next. The first thing you got to understand is that this starts from the generation before you, and it's going to continue with the generation that comes after you. So our first generation is our most motivational generation. The ancestors who were born here and changed. If they wouldn't have fought, if they wouldn't have kept fighting and struggling, me, Tayla, Andre, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. If they would have gave up, if they would have been like, oh, hell no, I'm just done. I'm going to die. Kill me. Many of them did sacrifice themselves. Many of them was killed. Many of them committed suicide. But what about the ancestors who said, no, I have to keep going. I have to keep fighting. This is for my babies. This is for the next generation. I have to fight to make this society as better than the last. Each year, day by day, throughout the history of us surviving, because our ancestors were survivors. You see what I'm saying? If they wouldn't have survived, me and you wouldn't be here. So I add that to my mental sanity. My mental health is that no, they didn't give up. They passed the baton. It's a relay race of generational struggle for liberation. So I gotta survive. I gotta fight. I gotta teach. I gotta educate. Because I'm somebody's watching me. Somebody's behind me watching. I gotta pass the baton to them. So even if I don't make it to the finish line, the stretch, and wave that checker flag, that generation behind me or that generation behind that generation is going to make that finish line. They're going to finish the work of Nipsey. They're going to finish the work of Pop. They're going to finish the work of Matulu. They're going to finish the work of all these great elders who sacrificed their lives and sacrificing their time. People don't even realize your time is a sacrifice. Even just dedicating your time to the struggle to free oppressed people or free people, period, that's tough. That's dedication. You see what I'm saying? So it's all about dedication, understanding that this is definitely not a sprint. You're not going to get there overnight. You're not going to get free overnight. So you gotta put that in your mind and embed that in your mental health. Is that yes, I'm doing this work to pass it off. You gotta pass it off. So once you know that, then you're gonna feel more healthy and more comfortable in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish on your purpose, your destiny and role in our liberation.
I appreciate you. I love you. I hope you guys learned something today. I hope that there was a seed that was planted in you that inspires you to do something different or to have different discussions and conversations with your peers and with your youth as well as your elders. I have an affinity for elders. I love my elders. And it's because they are the libraries. And I want all the knowledge. I want all the information. And so with that being said, I really hope that you will continue to come back and bless us with all that you have learned. Not all that you have learned, but at least the Cliff Note version.
Right. I thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I love building with you. I love you too. I love the work that you're doing. Just let's continue to build, man. I'm available anytime. Let's build. Like what we're doing right now. People don't realize this what these conversations me and you having is helping. It's putting bricks on that struggle. It's guiding us towards where we want to go. So yeah, let's continue to build.
Tell us how to find you.
Oh yeah, you can find me on all social media platforms at Haki Kweli Shakur. All you gotta do is just type my name, probably in Google, Haki Kweli Shakur, or even Haki Shakur, and you will find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can check out my YouTube channel by just putting my name in the search engine, Haki Kweli Shakur. Some of my stuff is on there, and you can check out my website, which is newafrican77.wordpress.com. And you can find all my stuff on there, and you can find me on all social media platforms.
Waking Up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope you have an amazing day.
Freedom on.